I've always never feared judgment. I don't know why I have never feared judgment, but I think actually that's a lie. I know why I have never feared judgment. I definitely know why. Maybe I may have to turn an episode on that, why I never fear judgment. But that would be going too deep into my dirty laundry. People will be exposed.
And that's another episode. And that's
And
another
that is
episode.
that
And that episode never comes. Guys, these episodes are coming. Don't worry.
they are coming, and people are going to be exposed. But I've never been afraid of judgment.
Like they driving me crazy, like, and my friends be like, it's not that deep, right? And the fam be saying, you're in your feelings, what? All I know is, life is raggedy.
Hello, welcome back to the Reform and Pessimist podcast. It's your girlie Abanga Lydia, and I am here with my girlie Jabz, my forever collaborator. Guys, you're going to be seeing Jabz on a regular basis because we have good conversations and we talk about a lot of things. And Jabz actually gave me a really good idea on doing this series. That's probably going to be ongoing because I'm not going to do it concurrently. So I'm going to be doing this series called We Are Not a Monolith. It was a suggestion by Jabz actually, which is going to be really interesting. I'm going to be dropping them like concurrently through the year with the tagline on it. And I think I'm going to be doing it with Jabz regularly and maybe having other guests on it. But it's very, very fascinating when Jabz reached out to me and was like, oh, actually, you know what? This may be a good idea to do a series on Blackness and how being a Black person is not a monolith because we grow up with this stereotypes and these perception of what being Black is or being a specific woman is or being an African woman is. And we're here to dispel, dismantle, break down, pull apart these stereotypes, these ideologies of what a certain person should be and what We Are Not a Monolith is going to be is talking about and having conversation around these things. Like Blackness is not a thing. Being a Black woman is not a thing. Being African is not just this one thing. It's more than that. So me and Jabz are going to be exploring a lot of topics on this and it's going to be really fun and really interesting. But before we go on, let me just get Jabz to, introduce herself. We've not spoken in a while. We've not recorded in a while. So get Jabz to have the floor. How have you been? How are you doing? Welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. I've been good. I've been busy, grafting as usual. But yeah,
I missed you.
I missed you too.
Guys, we live in different cities and we've been friends since we were in college?
Yeah, like since we're 16.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we're now in our 30s and it's still a flourishing, beautiful friendship, thank God. And we've just been in each other's corner and just like supported each other through the gap of everything. So yeah, before we go ahead though, with the podcast, it's like wellness, it's well-being and stuff like that. Let's do a check-in with you first. I don't really do a check-in when I'm doing solo episodes, so I just want to check in with you. How you doing? How are things? You said you're hustling, you're grafting. How's that taking you? Before we jump into the topic of discussion on this series.
So raggedy.
Well, to be honest, sometimes it does get like overwhelming, but I think I've just chosen to have a positive outlook on everything. So I'm not feeling as maybe stressed as maybe what I would normally do around this time. I'm currently going through like a career change, so it's one kind of big transition that we're trying to process. So yeah, that's good.
I'm really, really glad. And how is it like, before we go into the topic, how's it like having that transition where before you used to struggle so much with transition and change and everything, and now you're actually handling it so well? How does it feel like to be in that place?
I think what's made it easier this time, or maybe easier for me to navigate, is that now the fear that used to like prevent me before, even though it's still there, it's not on the forefront of my mind. So I'm kind of going like, okay, what is the worst that could happen? And then you can assess that and think, actually, you know what, it's not going to be too bad. So let me just get on with it. There's some better opportunity for me at the other side of this transition. So why not just go all 10 toes down into it?
Yeah, like guys, like Jabz is such a bad bee. Like as a friend, she's so inspiring to me. She is. Let me give you your flowers, girl. Let me give you your flowers. She's just such a badass. She's such a badass. Like since we've been young, like she's been such an inspiration to me in terms of the way that she move, her authenticity, her confidence in a lot of things. And it may seem like it's a lack of confidence, but it's a lot of confidence in how like she's so brave. A lot of the things that she put herself out there to do, that she's so brave. But we'll come back to that topic in a bit. And also, I have recorded episodes for her that I've not dropped yet, so I will drop that later. They are all audio. Sorry, guys. Unfortunately, you don't get to see our cute face, but I will drop them because she just gives some gems, so much knowledge, so much wisdom, just so much beauty in her heart. So let's jump into the topic of today. Now, are you an introvert or an extrovert? Are you
That
times
is
as being shy?
the first initial question now when you meet people. Before it used to be like, what's your Wi-Fi password? Now it's like, are you an introvert or an extrovert? I would say I am an introvert. I think anyone who knows me personally, I think that's pretty obvious. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason why I say are you an introvert and extrovert is because this is the topic that we're definitely going to be discussing about. And it's something that we've actually talked about over the years of our friendships, right? Where we've always talked about, oh, what is introversion? What is extroversion? And the stereotypes that's like aligned to those human behaviors, as Carl Jung explains it, if I've got it right. It's like, it's these human behaviors that, people exhibit as part of their personality and how they get to be and stuff like that. But before we actually launch into the topic, I wanted us to look at some myths about being introvert, extrovert, and then we can just go in and like chit chat, because me and you, when we get into a conversation, it gets deep, it gets flowing. So let's just explore that quickly. So some of the myths I've seen is that only extroverts like to socialize. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think that is I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. I think that it's a misconception that extroverts like to social. That's the thing they like to do the most, and then that introverts don't socialize at all. And it's just not that black and white. It's just not that. It's not that the spectrum. It's very much nuanced, very much like grey areas, and then also depending on the individual themselves.
And just to quickly also like kind of expand on is that when you're introverted, you're seen as kind of liking seclusion because you get your energy from seclusion, being by yourself and stuff like that. And when you're extroverted, you're seen as somebody who likes to gain energy from people, and like you draw from people, like you get energetic when you're around people. So it comes with a lot of misconception when you're an introverted, that like people just think that you're a nomad and you like to be alone, you don't like to be around people, you don't like to socialize and have fun and have like relationships. I've realized that like being an introvert, you build deeper connections, you build deeper relationship because you prefer one-to-one, you prefer quality time, because there's like the depthness of it is like fulfilling to you, even though it can exhaust you as well, but it can also be very, very fulfilling in that sense. So is the kind of separation between those two. Now, I did ask Jabz if she was an introvert, extrovert. So let me talk about myself and my introversion, extrovert. We've also talked about it over the years. I've been like I give it percentages because that's how I work. So I would say I am an introvert, extrovert. I've met people who have been like, I met some guy, right, that was trying to, check a girl out. And he was like, oh, I think you're an extrovert. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I am introverted, extrovert. He said, no, you don't look like it. You're too bubbly to be introverted. And I'm like, sir, you just met me. You don't know me. You do not know me. But it is like you can be an in-between person. I think that as I get older and as I evolve and as I get into my authenticity, I'll say that I am 60% introverted, 60% introverted, and 40% extroverted. I think I can't not just be introverted. I have to be extroverted also because I like to be out there. I like to be around people. I think people definitely give me energy, but I also need seclusion to also get a lot of energy. So I draw from both, and it's kind of what defines me as a person and my personality. Yes, I may come across as bubbly and fun and but I'm not out there like that. I do not have that energy per se. So I would describe myself as that. Would you say that there's some extroversion to yourself, Jabz, or is it just introversion and then that's it?
Element of extroversion. I do like, because I like adventure, I like new things. So despite maybe the social side of like interactions might hold me back to pursue certain things because I'm so curious and so much wanting to venture out that it will push me socially to meet new people, to go into new environments. And I very much have a confidence to do things alone. So I think that could is like the extroverted side of me. I'm always always curious, always like when I don't do something new or don't see a new place, I almost feel like a itchy feeling like, oh, I need to get out there. And so I'm like, I can't be introverted if that is the case. But fundamentally, like on the core, yes, I think I do get, it's the thing about what gives you energy and where do you recharge. And I do think that's when I am alone. It does allow me to recharge and I'm more in my comfort zone when I am alone, especially in my own space.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, it's always nuanced and it's not a one thing, a one way type of situation. There's one thing that you said that is really fascinating to me that I always ask people like this because it was such a hard thing for me to do stuff by myself, to do stuff alone. It was so hard. We talked about that a lot. It was kind of, it even became a goal. It became a goal of mine to be like, girl, you need to start doing stuff alone. And over the past year or so, I have been doing stuff alone. But where does that come from? That confidence? Because I've got a few friends who are very introverted. They are extroverted as well, but they're very introverted. And there's this confidence that they have about being able to go for a meal by themselves, go to the theater by themselves, go to an art gallery by themselves, like do cinema by themselves, do social like events, go to gigs by themselves. And I'm like, how do you do that? Because for some reason, for the longest time, these activities, it felt like I needed to do with people, like I needed to be around people to do it. And we are growing older, we are aging, so dynamics are changing between friendships, between relationships. People are getting married, people are having kids, people are moving countries, like things are changing. You realize your social circle will become very different, and then you want to be outside, you want to do stuff, you don't want to seclude yourself to home. So you're like, okay, how do I still find entertainment and distraction, like sourcing of like activities outside instead of just being by myself alone, and it has to be with people before I can do anything. How do you build that confidence to do that?
That is a very, very good question. We have talked about it a bit. Let me see if I can articulate it. So, what I was saying to before about kind of the need for seeking adventure and curiosity that pulls me, that brings me out of my shell. Because maybe my fears of social interaction is relating to people. So when you remove the people side of it, I'm very much more at ease. I could go somewhere and be afraid of maybe taking directions or navigating a new city. But because when I look at those interactions with people, maybe asking the bus driver for directions as like a kind of very brief, quick interaction, I'm not fearful of that rejection if there is going to be any. So if they're going to be rude to me, I'll just brush it off because I'm like, oh, I'm just talking to this person for 2 seconds and then I'm getting on with my journey. Whereas if it was, let's say, put me into a party, I'm definitely going to be more afraid of that because you'll be like, okay, 4 hours trying to navigate talking to people I've just met. That terrifies, even talking about it now, like it just terrifies me. So I think the time alone, it's like I think it's less scary. I find it less scary. And when I was talking to people who appear to me as extroverts, and I was also very surprised to find out that the doing things alone thing, they were like, oh no, I could never do that. And I'm like, how could you not do that? You're like the most bubbliest, brightest, chatty person I know. How would you be afraid of that, like to do things alone? And they're like, no, like it doesn't seem very easy to me.
And I'm one of those as well, though. I'm definitely one of those. And I really like the fact that you pointed out fears and the fears that we have when it comes to doing certain things. Like you're not afraid when you are outside and, like you're kind of like in control of the environment that you're in. So you can navigate it whilst you're in a party. It's a social event. Of course, you have to interact in a certain way, and interacting in that way can be intimidating for you, which is funny because I'm the reverse way around, where if you put me in the middle of a party, I will be, like I'll just go and talk to everybody, have conversations, try and create interactions. And it doesn't mean that it's not intimidating for me per se. It is, but I'm also very much of someone who's really curious about people and really fascinated by people. I feel like I developed my sense of self learning and observing people, which means I'm always excited to interact with other people and talk to them about their experiences, their journeys, their wants, their likes, their desires. And in that way, it informs me as a person because of that inspiration and that kind of exhilaration I get from interacting with people means that when I'm in a party, I will love to just like navigate because it also feels like a safe bubble for me. However, if you put me outside in the public by myself, I will shut the world out because there's no security. And that is overwhelming. It's too many people. There's something that you do actually that always fascinates me is that you're always comfortable talking to people in public than I am. And that is very fascinating to me.
And I'm like, okay, I'm the complete opposite. Me in a party, let's say like you like someone, maybe a friend of a friend has invited me, so I know my friend, but I don't know anybody else in the party. My friend's the birthday girl. They're busy interacting with their people. I don't want to be like tagging along with them the whole night. That terrifies me. That is where I'll be like, this is something I'll say, this is scary. Being outside now in the public, I'll feel like that's more like safety. That's my safety zone. Because even though, yes, in the public, there's more variables and other external things going on. You're still very much in a bubble. So if I'm just heading to my destination, technically, I don't actually have to talk to anybody. I can decide if I want to interact with somebody or not. And now with technology, let's say, okay, I referred to about asking directions before. Now I don't even really have to verbally ask someone directions. I can just use my phone, my maps on my phone. So it's like if I feel I can talk to people if I feel like I want to. I can get through the whole journey not talking to anybody as long as I've done the activities I like. It's still very fun. Whereas in like those party networking sessions, if I don't have those interactions, it can feel very awkward, and I feel like people are noticing how awkward it is. So I feel more in those environments. That's where I'd want somebody to be by my side. Out in the world, I'm all right.
That is really, really, it's just a really interesting thing to me because in the public, and I will put it this way, in the public, I like the way that you've actually articulated it because it's like, okay, you feel like, okay, I'm in more of control in terms of like who I choose to interact and not interact with. But for me, speaking to somebody in the public is not secure and it's not safe to me because for me, it's like, oh, you're a stranger and I don't know you. And
Mm.
why are you approaching me? So that discomfort in my body, talk about it being scary, that discomfort in my body, it just makes me be like, oh yeah, no, stay away, stay away. But when I am in like a friend's party, for instance, like you use that as an example, the friend will probably be like, by the way, there's this group of people that is trash, that group of people that is amazing, that this that and the other. So I already got tea from my friend about whatever the party situation is, so I know how I'm going to interact and how I'm going to deal with people in that party. So there's like a little bit more of a control for me in that situation where I feel that a level of safety, a level of protection in that moment to be able to be like, okay, I know I have an inkling of what these characteristics of or these different types of people are going to be like, these different personalities are going to be like, and therefore there's a confidence to be able to navigate that because I now have perspective and I can deal with that. I can manage that. And that way interacting is not so hard because I'm like, oh, you can be an asshole or a jackass. And I'm like, oh, this person's also a jackass. So how can I circumvent their assholeness and their jackassness to be able to kind of manage whatever interaction I need to manage with them to make the social event I'm part of be a good experience for me and maybe for the people that I'm with. Whilst in public, I don't know you. I don't know your characteristics. I don't know who you are as a person. And that distrust in that makes me not want to interact with anybody when I'm outside, like when I'm in the public with them. I have to kind of have some supporting statements from people. People saying, oh, that person is it. That kind of helps me navigate social events better. And that's what I do better when it's like a party or like a work event or stuff like that, because I know the characteristics, I know what the expectations are. So when I'm in the public, when I'm navigating with the public and somebody just approaching me in the public and talking to me, that feels very awkward to me. That feels really scary to me. And I know that also, of course, it's a healing podcast. So there's a lot of underlying shit that I have that makes me that way. But it's just, that's how my brain works in that
No,
setting.
I mean, it makes sense when you explain it to me, but I'm like, no, it's like for me, it's the complete other way around. Because I feel like if I'm now in the party with people and I've been given prompts from a certain friend, like, oh, these people are like this, these people are like that, that just sends my brain into overdrive. So now I'm just really like overthinking and analyzing. Oh, so if they're like this and I say this, and they're not gonna like it. Da, 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 da. So I'm very much more conscious of what I'm saying. A random person, I can tell them as much about me and as little about me as I want, and I'm not going to get judged. I can tell them I live in what is it, Sheffield. I can tell them my name is Jessica, and because I'm an anonymous person to them, they're not really going to know if I'm telling the truth or not. But network, social settings where I feel the circle is small, whatever I say here, especially if it's like networking maybe for like career and business, these conversations are going to be remembered. They're going to be discussed after. So I feel like there's more scrutiny on me what I say in those situations, and that makes me more self-conscious and more likely to.
Mm.
So yeah, but it's
That
very,
is,
very interesting.
and another thing that I'm going to pivot into, because you brought the word the word judgment up, and that is very fascinating to me, because I'm realizing a lot about how a lot of us fear judgment and fear being seen. And again, that also ties up really well, perfectly with how we view ourselves as introverted or extroverted, and how we decide to basically present ourselves in our public persona to the world, right? It's like, I am approaching the world. The world needs to see me a certain way, and I don't want them to judge me in a certain light. So how do I present myself in a way where I look good? Even for instance, in the workplace, like we talk about the workplace a lot, and how the workplace champions extroversion. The workplace pushes extroversion as the right way of behaving, as the right, personality type to be. And I wonder how, like, the lack of judgment may impact the way that we behave a lot in social settings, and the way that we do things in social settings. Because for me, in all honesty, it's not that I've come to a place. I think I've always never feared judgment. I don't know why I have never feared judgment, but I think actually that's a lie. I know why I have never feared judgment. I definitely know why. Maybe I may have to turn an episode on that, why I never fear judgment. But that'll be going too deep into my dirty laundry. People will be exposed.
No, no, it's, oh, and that's another episode, and that's another episode, and that episode never comes, guys. These episodes are coming, don't
They're
worry.
coming, and people are going to be exposed. But I've never been afraid of judgment. And because I've never been afraid of judgment means that I walk into spaces and I'm like, think whatever you want to think about me, I'm still going to be. Now, I say this with a very massive caveat that I am still shaking in my boots. I'm still very anxious. The need to be liked is a big thing for me. The need to be liked is bigger to me than the fear to be judged. So my focus is, I just want you to like me. I don't care if you judge me, but I just want you to
Mm.
like me. So I navigate in a way where I'm like, how do I get this person to like me? And in some cases, sometimes it becomes a challenge for me where I meet people and I know they do not like me at all. And I'm like, I am going to turn you. And I turn them. And later on in my head, I judge them for it, because I'm like, yeah, you were messing with me. And here I am. And most of the time, in particular, because I'm a big girl, like I'm a fat girl. So a lot of people, the fat phobia is real. So some people, they see me and all of a sudden I don't like, and then I'm like, let me switch my personality on. And then all of a sudden they're like you. And I'm like, oh, now you like me. And then I get to be the one that choose you, not the other way around.
You're playing, you're playing,
Yeah.
you're playing checkers. I'm playing chess.
It's a and also it tells me who a person is. It tells me if this is the type of person I want to associate myself with. This is the type of person I want to be in a relationship with. Maybe, and the reason why I say it tells me who the person is because maybe it's not them judging me. Maybe it's because they also have their own insecurity, their own internalized thing, and it has nothing to do with me. And sometimes it's genuinely like they don't like me because of something about me. Either it's the way my personality is, the way I look, whatnot. And I need to decipher that to know, okay, are you my person or not?
Yeah.
And it's that, even though it's me seem like a chess thing, it's kind of me figuring a person out to see if I can align myself with them or not. In terms of like the whole judgment thing. So mine is more like a do you like me? Instead of more like my fear of, are you judging me? Because your judgments of me would change at some point. That's how I feel about it.
Okay, no, that does like yeah, when you explain it like that, I can see how you get that thought process. For me, I said the word judgment, but I think it's more like fear of rejection or wanting to be fitting or be accepted. That's the one that drives me. So I don't mind if you don't like me. I don't mind if you do judge me to some extent, obviously. You know, I won't want to be judged negatively, but if you do, okay. But I just don't want you to reject me, especially if it's leading to something. Maybe I believe it's for my future development. So specifically, that's why I could maybe, like I said, get into those party spaces, those networking spaces, and feel so overwhelmed, so anxious, so terrified, like so scrutinizing what I'm going to say in my head because I'm like, I don't want this person to reject me. Where I was out in public, I'm like, this, I could have an interaction with a random taxi driver. We could clash. He goes home. He chats about it to his wife. It ends there. I am not bothered. It's not something to think about. Oh, he didn't like me. Okay, you know, we move on. Whereas I feel like in these networking environments, these are now like relationships that they're going to have to be ongoing. You know, you're going to be building them up. So I'm like, no, I really can't afford to be rejected in this case. Not necessarily because I'm desperate for validation, but I kind of need to be accepted in this space for yeah my own personal development. So I'm okay with you not liking me as long as you're polite and okay, you're gonna judge me. Okay, judge me harshly, fine. As long as it doesn't get to, it's not really put in my face, like you're not confronting me straight up. It's the rejection part of it.
You really summed it up beautifully there, actually. And there's two things that I've pulled out from the way that you've summed it up, which is that the relationship dynamics in particular, the follow-up impact that it has on you. For instance, like when you were talking about it, it was getting me to think about relationships about being in where narratives have been spun about me and how that ripple effect, that Chinese whispers, ended up taking a toll on me and the shame that I carried within myself because of these narratives being spun around about me. And it can take a hit on your self-esteem and who you are as a person because it may make you believe that like, oh, this misconception or this characterization of who I am as a person, how it ends up in terms of having a very big impact on me and how the society or the community or the workplace view me. And it also made me think about a friend that I have who is constantly going on about, being an introvert and how hard it is in the workplace. You're trying to progress in work and the workplace politics and the workplace celebration of extroversion means that like constantly they're being overlooked, they're being passed on for promotion, and it takes a toll on people. It kind of have a massive impact on people's like sense of self because you are in this thing and you know that you're brilliant, you know you're good at your job, you know you're good at what you're doing, but you know you're being passed off because you're not pally, you're not all at the work drinks, or you're not at like, sucking up to the boss, you're not this, that, and the other, but you're really good at your job and you're exceptional at what you do. And I listen to a lot of like also professional podcasts a lot where they talk about that and how like, in a sense, like a lot of places, they pass people off for promotion and put people on who are like not, the right fit, who are not capable to do the role, all because they're like basically either good at relating to specific group of people. And I've also encountered bosses who are like that, who are just, oh my goodness. And I was actually telling you recently, I don't know if I told you about this, where like there's a job opportunity that came up for me and I went to Glassdoor to read the review of that workplace and they were like, it is nepotism central. They promote the people that they like. Somebody wrote a whole thesis, like a whole essay on Glassdoor. The person was like, do not take any job opportunity for it doesn't matter what role. Job opportunity. Nepotism central. They only promote people that they like, which means that people are not doing their jobs properly. And it was very, very, very fascinating to me. So like, what is your point of view on like the whole thing about workplace, how they characterize people, like being an introverted person in the workplace, the pains that come with it, because I'm introvert, extrovert, I play both. And in some cases, I don't sometimes feel that impact because I'm like playing both, both realm. And therefore I am able to still navigate that kind of culture that is very well established in the corporate or work setting.
No, it is a very it's a big topic, and I see talked about a lot more these days. I don't know, is it because now we're just a lot more active on social media, talking about our, people sharing their experiences and stuff. So it's something that I hear that, people delve into a lot more nowadays, which is good, because when you hear other people's experiences, then it stops you to feel like you are alone or you're the weird one. So yeah, I think particularly Western work culture does celebrate and encourage, extrovertism. So if you are, like you were saying, if you are more on the introverted side, as good as you are at your role, it is like a barrier to certain opportunities and certain promotions, job roles, salaries, etc. That's a very brief. It sounds like I'm saying it very absolute and very like definitive, and saying it very like as if it's a fact. But I think I've seen too many instances of it in Western work culture for me to doubt that it is a thing. It is a thing. I don't think people are exaggerating when they say this does affect my working life, because the culture, I think, it sees the way to show interest in something is to be vocal about it, is to take part in activities or engage, or to be seen as kind of like bright and bubbly. So if you're not displaying those characteristics, your work environment will assume that you are disinterested automatically, and it'll be very hard. As hard as you could work, it'll be very hard to prove that you that you want to be there. That's the way this is what I think personally.
I think if you're introverted, you have to work twice as hard. This may be controversial. Do you
Yeah.
think if you're introverted, like you have to work twice as hard to be recognized?
Yeah, you do. Because now your nature is an introverted nature. Things that might come instinctively to other people, you are having to like work at it. So I'm not necessarily saying you're doing something that's high level, pat you on the back for, but because it's just not your nature, it is a job for you. It's like me, somebody who's in music, so not trained in music at all, and only up until recently getting to kind of practice more that creative side. But somehow you give me a song, I can sing it in tune. It's like asking me now, somebody who's not musically inclined, to sing in tune all the time. You can do it, but it will take a lot of practice and training compared to somebody who is musically inclined. And then judging that person every time they can't sing in tune, even though they are not musically inclined. Then taking the fact that they can't sing in tune quickly, and then deeming them as not capable and competent in almost all aspects of their work just because they can't sing in tune quickly. That's way I can compare it, and then even when I vocalize it, you're like, that sounds crazy. If you can't sing in tune, that's just who you are. Why should I be demonized? That's how I feel how it is for introverts in the workplace.
In fact, because at the end of the day, you are who you are your personality type, and it's really hard to kind of like, it's like basically, when you watch the movie, it's like there was a line where Kate Winslet's character says that like it's around a square peg in a round hole. Like it's like we don't fit. It's like you're basically augmenting yourself to be something that you're not. And authenticity is like so important. And I wonder if we are allowed to be authentic in ourselves within our work environment, which in all honesty, we know that is a myth. It's a myth because the society that we live in does not not champion authenticity. You have to be the best actor you can be to be in this world. You have to be the best performer you can be to be in this world. So we know that is impossible, but it will be idealistic to want a world where like authenticity is quite celebrated and we champion authenticity, and therefore people can come in the authentic way and still be valued and appreciated and celebrated for their contribution and the work that they add. I will ask you this, like for people who are really, really introverted, like are in the workplace, like what would you want to say to encourage them, particularly like the friend that I was talking about who's like really frustrated because they're being passed on promotions. They're really like trying to move forward, being who they are authentically and struggling in that way and maybe hitting the ceiling or peaking. Like, would you have some words of encouragement, having also experienced it yourself? What would you say to them?
First thing I would say is that it's not in your head. I think a lot of people will just say, oh, well, that's how work life is. You're just being very negative. You just need to keep pushing. And I think I'll say, no, follow your instincts. If it really feels like you're trying to fit, like, a round thing in a square hole, then that feels like that is happening, then that is happening. I would always encourage to stick with that first instinct. If it feels off, it is off. It is. If it's hard, if you're telling me it's hard, it is hard for you in particular. So you don't really have to justify yourself to anyone else. If they understand, great. If they don't, it's one of those things. But then also be open to, if there are other environments you can go into which might make things easier, be open to explore that. So if it means a different working pattern, maybe with the hours are more comfortable for you, or a different style, maybe if it's remote working, hybrid, a different industry, invest some time to explore those options. I can say we live in a country where there are quite a lot of options in terms of like modes of work in industries. Back to the analogy of the music and the singer. If the person, like I said, who's not musically inclined, and we keep going on at them to sing in tune, at the end of the day, it's not going to make sense. They will be like, oh, I can't sing in tune. I'll just go and dance instead. So I'm like, if you can do that, why shouldn't an introvert be like, okay, this is just not working for me. Why don't I just try, figure out something else that suits me better? I don't think it's not it's not you acting entitled to want to be in a space that is more comfortable for you and helps you work better, more efficiently, and then thus helps you with your professional development.
Yeah. And I think it's just something that, like, hopefully workplaces will really take into account. Some good workplaces do, like, my employer, they do. And I'm really grateful and appreciative for them. It's not perfect, I would definitely say, but it's something I do appreciate, because it would be really nice for people to be in a work environment where they feel like they're still seen, depending on whatever personalities that they have. And I had this boss, actually I don't have him anymore, and he's such an introvert. You can just tell this man is an introvert. But every time I went into meetings with him, with our clients, he was one of the most brilliant people I've seen in meetings, because nothing gets past this man. Nothing. It was just so cool to just witness him, the way that he would be in meetings, and like these massive executives will come on and they'll be hooping and happling, and this man will just be there and tear them apart, like tear them. No, no, and he's such an introvert, and just the way it was just so cool. It was just so cool to see. It was like quite admirable, and so I think that there's like so many characteristics to people who are introverted that could be learned, that could be appreciated, that could be valued, that we need to like see and like identify. But unfortunately that's not the case. We focused on one myth. We might probably come and talk about more myths later on down the line. But for you, in terms of the fact that like not all introverts are the same and not all extroverts are the same, what would be your overall thought as we're walking towards the end of the episode? What would you say about how introverts are not the same as each other, even though we are all categorized in this one box as introverts or categorized in this one box as extrovert? What would you say makes you all not alike to each other?
So you'll find some who are more social than others. I think I consider myself now at this stage of my life, I could say, yeah, I am a social person. I have quite a active social life. So I think that misconception that they're just all antisocial and they're hiding their rooms the whole year and everything, and I'm like, no, I know that's not the case at all. Not for me, anyway. And that I think the one I could say I've observed for extroverts, what they usually get, that people have that misconception that they are all just extremely loud and very like chatty and talkative, maybe just for the sake of talking. And I'm like, no, I've met so many extroverts where, yes, they might be bubbly and bright, but they have very meaningful conversations, very thoughtful conversations. I've seen them, they know how to navigate social interactions and work with different people very, very well. I don't think it's always just about like showmanship. I think they do also like want a genuine, deeper connection with people. They just have a different way of expressing it.
Yeah, there's I'm actually going to go through the list in terms of like the misconceptions that I found, because I think that the points that you've made is like quite really interesting. So there's this one about introverts don't take risks.
Mm.
And you are very much of an introverted person, and you are one of the biggest risk takers I know. So I know that that's definitely BS. Like that is point blank BS. I learned about risk taking from Jabz. I mean, I'm also a risk taker myself, but there was some risks I was just not willing to take. But I've never met somebody like Jabz who's like always taking risks, like always taking risk. And I'm like, this girl is crazy. How is she always taking risks? And it's just nice to know that like there's some introverts out there who are just constantly like pushing the bar, pushing the line to kind of get to a place that they want to get to. So what are your thoughts on that in terms of risk taking?
Okay, I can maybe talk a bit from myself as an example, but I know this is not the case for all introverts. That thing of taking risks, maybe also viewing what I think personally is a risk, maybe what I think is a risk for me, what I think is a risk is not a risk to somebody else. So, we have different ideas.
Subjective.
Yeah, it's very, very subjective. So things I'm just like, oh, this is just anyhow, this is a minor. We can get through it. People are like, no, that's crazy. And they do things like, oh no, I could never do that. And they're like, oh no, this is, you're overthinking it. There's that. And then there's also, I think going back to the topic about rejection, fear of rejection and fear of not fitting in. If you're you're an introvert, maybe you're now in 30s, mid-30s, 40s, you already faced a lot of rejection, harsh judgment, and not fitting in. You can still fear it, but the fear is not too much as it maybe is when you're younger. Okay, this is very blanket assumption. So you're more likely to jump into things because that initial fear, someone's going to reject me. Oh, well, that's happened a million times and I survived. So it's almost very much putting things like, what do I have to lose? Oh, somebody's going to roll their eyes at me. Oh, So you're very, oh, I'm just going to go to that place alone and not make any friends. Oh, well, that's not new. So why would I do anything? You don't have those, like maybe social airs and graces that might prevent other people from doing things because you're like, okay, I've already been in a very awkward situation you could think of. So why would I
It's that place of having no fucks to give. Extroverts are happier. Again, guys, this is the BS that we be because people were like, I was deep in depression. Yeah, people were like, oh my god, I thought you was. I'm depressed. Yeah, I look like I'm an extrovert. I'm happy. I've been depressed, and I performed happiness so well, so well. People were like, oh my god, she's the most happiest person I know. And I'll be like, oh, I'm depressed. Like, I never imagined you'll be somebody who's depressed. Yes, I am. But yeah, extroverts are happier. Thought.
Ooh, I want to hear from you. I think as like you think
that's more like my. I think that is a massive misconception. It's a myth. It's a real myth. I think that some of us extroverts, we're out there like that because we're trying to run away from our depression. We're trying to run away from our sadness. We're probably getting the energy from people because the energy is masking, and it's a, for me anyway. Like when I'm like very extroverted, it's like an escape for me. I'm escaping. Being like, I talked about this on one of my episodes about like, having a tough year last year. And one of the ways that I got through my depression was being extroverted because I was escaping. It was literally my form of escapism. And in some cases, some of us extroverts, we're escaping from our own realities, our own sadness, our own tough, issues that we're going through, and just being around people and having fun and just chit-chatting and celebrate. It's a form of distraction for us. Whilst maybe introverts will probably be inwards and introspecting to try and heal themselves, extroverts are extroverting their healing and dealing with their healing in a way. So it is a massive myth to say that like extroverts are happier. That is a massive lie. I would say that for sure. And also, it doesn't speak to the human experience because it's like, wow, so you're bubbly and you're energetic and you're out there like that, so you're happy. No. There's people lying out to you. And a good example is like people like the comedian Robin Williams. Funny. Out there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you know what I mean? People like unalive themselves. And then we're all out here like, oh my goodness. And then these are the real factors. They're like, they always say to check on your happy friends. Literally check on your happy friends, check on your sociable friends, check on these people because a lot of them are really struggling and they're putting on a persona. Like I said, we live in this world where we encourage performance. You know what I mean? We are all acting out here. And that people are putting on their Oscar-winning performances as part of their lives. So yeah. The next one is an introvert is more likely to deal with mental illness.
Ew.
I'm laughing so hard because, guys, I'm side-eyeing myself. Side-eye like, But I do say I'm 60% introvert, so who knows?
More likely to deal with mental illness, but maybe it's more likely to not be talked about or addressed because we're going to struggle to express ourselves, maybe struggle a bit to be understood, because it's like, okay, what is okay with my thought process as an introvert? What is me feeling depressed, and what's the difference between me feeling depressed or me just feeling like I just need to recharge my batteries and be alone? Like, I think there's times maybe I was struggling mental health wise, but because people just know me to be the introvert, they're like, oh, she's just being moody and quiet. Or the times where I was just a little bit on the quiet side, and they'd be like, you must be really down about something. Like, no, I'm just maybe my energy, my social battery is a bit low. So it's kind of harder for other people to detect. Are we just ourselves, or are we actually going through something mentally at this moment in time? And then it's also harder for us to articulate. But I can't say we are more prone to have issues with mental health. That one, no. I think that, everyone is equally susceptible to that.
Yeah. I think that mental illness doesn't have favorites. It doesn't pick people. Everybody's a target. Everybody is a target. And we all have a brain. And because we all have a brain means that, like, we can all get sick in our brain. It doesn't choose your personality type to determine what kind of, situation it is going to deal with. So I think that that's definitely a myth. Extroverts are much more confident.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to be bold and just be like, no, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Why does it even have to be bold, girl? Say it with your chest. Say it with your chest.
I don't think they're just as confident as introverts. I don't think they're any more confident. I think maybe, like I said, what society views as what is confident is, and going back to the happiness of what is happiness, they fit into that mold a lot better. So people assume that, but I'm like, no, I don't think they're more confident. I've seen introverts do things. Okay, they'll navigate things differently because of their communication style. But I've seen introverts be very confident, very bold about things. It's like where it's just blown me away. I'm just like, wow, like I want that confidence.
And just to add my 2 cents as well, I don't know if you remember when we were in college, there was this guy that we met. We were at home bargains. It's such a memory. It's such a core memory. We met this guy at home bargains.
14, 13 years ago. Like, this is not
Yo,
something that happened
oh.
in a long time. But I remember exactly what you're on about. I know.
And the guy approached me and we're talking. There was somebody I went to high school with, actually, this lovely guy. And we're being friendly and we're going. And I don't know how the conversation came along, but he was like, but I know you was a very confident person. And I was at that point, my most not so confident. I was very, very insecure at that time. And the fact that I was viewed as confident was very fascinating to me. And again, going back to the theme of this episode, which is performance, is I knew how to perform confidence so well. I knew how to portray myself in a certain way where people thought I was so confident when actually that was not the case for me. I, in my own opinion, would say that, like, a lot of extroverts are much more insecure than some introverts, I would say. And this is just based on observation. It's not based on research. I don't have any hypothesis, whatever. Like, I'm just basically going by some of my observation. I've met a lot of extroverted people who are very, very insecure, very, very insecure. And the performance of the extroversion, putting themselves out there, being the loud, being the bubbly, being the this and that, is basically a put on. It's not a confidence thing. So I don't believe that, like, extroverts are more confident. It's also a real myth. I think that confidence is just confidence depending on who you are as a person. It's got nothing to do with your personality type whatsoever. Confidence is being able to deal with your own insecurities and overcoming your own insecurities. And again, similar to mental illness, is something that is like a self-worth thing. It has nothing to do with your personality type whatsoever. So yeah, that would be my point of view on that. And I think there's 2 more. Introverts are quiet.
Nah.
Guys, Jabz can talk. Jabz can talk. Yeah, introvert, but she can talk.
I'm using myself as an example. I'm at this stage in my life where I'm like, yeah, I can talk. There's certain environments where I am very quiet, yes. And I think I spent a lot of my formative years, teenage years, being very, very quiet. But at this point in time, no. I can definitely, like, beyond small. I think people who know me personally know I don't watch a lot of live television. Actually, I rarely watch live television. Even when I'm alone at home, I don't watch the TV like that. And then even when my friends come over to visit and we're interactive, we don't watch TV
Mm,
and we talk for hours and hours and hours and hours. Like, and I'm not on about okay, me and Lydia, as you know, we can talk for forever. But I'm having different friends with different interests, and we all talk for hours with the TV off. So I'm like, I definitely can't be described as a quiet person overall. Yes, I'm very quiet in some situations, yeah, but generally at this moment in time, no.
yeah. I think that because introverts are deemed as shy,
Hmm.
therefore they're deemed as people who do not like to have conversations, who do not have to talk. I have observed that like introverts are some of the people I have the best conversations with. I have the most introspective, most detailed, most like soul reaching conversations with because a lot of their conversation are not surface level, they go in deep. And that makes me love conversations like that. I'm a deep person already. So like when I'm meeting, and I think also it's funny how a lot of my friends are actually introvert, like proper introverts. It's very fascinating to me why a lot of my friends are proper introverts because they're like they just make the best of friends, I would say. And in particular, if you're somebody who like is going through a healing journey, who's struggling with something or the other, they're the best people to be able to confide in and talk to and have them listen to you and hear you. It's not like extroverts don't offer similar benefits. I feel like my extroverted friend more so they give me escape, they give me fun, they give me joy, they give me happiness. They also have their own benefits as well. That's very different to my introverted friend who just give me safe places to just talk and just be. And it doesn't mean the introverts also don't give me safe places to talk and be. And, but the conversation is never always that deep and that in depth, that dig and dig. And like Jav said, me and her, I would come to her house and even on the phone, we'll be on the phone for 5 hours, guys. 5 hours. What are we talking about? Girl, do I know? We are talking. So that whole ideology or that thought process of like, oh, introverts are quiet is actually not true. I think that the moment you connect with an introvert and you build a really good connection with them and you have a really good relationship with them, it's just so beautiful because you have some of the most just amazing interaction and loving moments. And that's why I'm a fan. I'm a fan of introverts. I love introverts so much. I love my extroverted friends too, but I also really, really love my introvert friends. They're just like really, really cool people. And they're just like wonderful people to be around and have friendships with.
Bouncing off that, like most of my friends now are extroverts, so how am I to attract-
You know, there's the opposites attracts, isn't it? Opposites attract, isn't it? So like, you go for the people that you want to be. Secretly, we all want to be the other person.
really interesting dynamic. Like I said, I was referring to before. I think extroverts they can have because they're a true extrovert is a people's person, so it means they can get along with anybody. A true extrovert. So I'm like they could see maybe okay she communicating a bit differently because they're so much people and they're so eager to like want to get to know you. They're willing to talk past that, so it helps the conversation flow a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah, fascinating. Now that you talked about it, now it's making me want to change my answer about being 40% extrovert because as I talk to you, I'm realizing I am actually a higher percentage of extrovert than I am introvert. I think like maybe I'll say 50-50. I'm not I am very introverted though, but I am very, very extroverted as well. And I always don't like to appreciate that side of myself, but I am very, very extroverted. Final one. Introverts and extroverts won't get along.
And that's linking back to what I said. Absolutely,
Literally.
they in general, if you vibe with someone, you vibe with somebody, no matter how they communicate. But no, they can. I think they make a great pairing. They bounce off each other. They balance each other out very, very well. And if I have my extroverted friends have helped me a lot with my communication, not necessarily like by sitting down and schooling me, but me just observing how they navigate in situations. I've learned so much from them.
Yeah. And it's also going to be the same way for me. And I'm glad that we're wrapping up this because I feel like the last conversation we had, it just flowed perfectly into this, is that I have had some amazing, I would just say that like, I'm going to put myself at 55% guys. So I'm 55% extrovert, so I can speak for extroverts. So as a representative of the extroverts, I would say that definitely have some of the best relationships I've had with some introverts. I feel like introverts and extroverts get along really well. They make a great pairing. And I've had an amazing relationship with so many introverts. I feel like some introverts have given me a lot of, like I've already said before, safe spaces to be myself, be authentically who I am, to speak up, to, not hide myself and hide who I am. And I think that there is benefits to these personality types, and having them around you. You don't want to seclude yourself from people who are like, exuberant or out there. And you also don't want to seclude yourself from people who are very quiet and shy and within themselves. There is benefits to having people all like that around you. And when I look at like my friendship circle, for instance, I have all of that. I have a variation of different personality types that I'm friends with. That makes it really beautiful because, like you said, I learned so much from my friends. My friends have been my teacher for the longest time. So having friends who have these different personality types, where I can be like, oh, actually, maybe I don't suit this well, but if I pick this pattern up, it might also benefit me and help me in my journey in life, in my progress in life, in my career, in the way I do things and like how I navigate things and stuff like that. Like it really benefits you as a person. So yeah. Do you have any final thoughts before we close the episode? This has been a really great chat. I'm not gonna lie, we always have a good conversation.
It's been very insightful. Obviously, there's a disclaimer. This is like, this conversation is very much like on our own personal experiences, so things can be quite subjective sometimes. And obviously, then I'm talking from the view as an introvert, so maybe it can be a bit more one side, leaning on that introverted side and perspective of things. But I hope that it provided a little bit more like insight in highlighting certain issues.
Yeah. And like I'm just going to echo what Jav said. Yes, like I always say on this podcast, is like this is my very small world and my very small perspective from my very little life that I've lived. So everything, take it from like, again, like very subjective point of view. And yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this episode of We Are Not a Wonderland. I hope that this kind of adds to, your source of entertainment, your joy, and validating in a certain way. Please comment if you like this episode. Please link up with Jabz. Jabz got a song out, guys. Like my girl is doing the do. Like honestly, and she looks like a baddie in the music video. So check Jabz out, and you know what I mean. Like go support her. She's also got a charity called Same Ground as well, that basically sends shoes to kiddies in Tanzania. It's like a big thing for her because of like her own passion with, her foot and stuff like that. So yeah, please support Jabz. And yeah, subscribe, like, share this podcast episode if you like it. Like I always say, I really want to bring people validation, some joy and some happiness while they're going through the healing journey. And we're going to be doing more of these topics because I think that they're so fun. I hope you all have a great day or a great week or whenever you're listening. And we'll catch you later. Bye.
Yeah, have a good one. Thanks for listening.